The Caribbean sun beat down on the bustling docks of Port Royal, a heat thick with the smell of salt, rum, and unfulfilled ambition. Elara, a woman hardened by her family's scorn, moved through the crowds with a practiced anonymity. Her own kin had cast her out, shaming her for a spirit they couldn't tame, a resilience they saw as defiance. Her father, a wealthy merchant, had disowned her, a public spectacle that had left her with nothing but the clothes on her back and a burning need to prove them all wrong. She was an outcast in a world that demanded conformity, a solitary figure navigating the treacherous waters of a society that had turned its back on her. Her gaze fell upon a ship unlike any other. The Reaper's Vengeance was a sleek black galleon, its sails a dark crimson, a stark contrast to the azure sky. The air around it felt different, charged with danger and a raw, untamed power. At its helm stood Captain Silas the Serpent Thorne, a man whose name was whispered in taverns with equal parts fear and admiration. He was a man forged in fire, his reputation a trail of plundered ships and ruthless efficiency. Elara had heard the tales, the rumors of his past, a life marked by betrayal and a relentless quest for vengeance against the man who had wronged him. Their paths crossed in a chaotic marketplace. Elara, distracted by the glint of a steel knife, accidentally bumped into a man. The man, a burly sailor, shoved her back with a sneer. Before she could react, Silas stepped in, his voice a low growl that cut through the noise. "Leave her be!" The sailor, recognizing the captain, backed down instantly. Silas's eyes, dark and intense, met hers. He saw not a shamed woman, but a kindred spirit, a reflection of his own solitude and defiance. He extended a hand. "I see you, and I see a survivor." Their conversation began with a simple offer: to join his crew, to find a place where her spirit was a strength, not a weakness. Elara, with no other options and a fierce desire for a new life, accepted. On the deck of the Reaper's Vengeance, she found not just a crew, but a family. The other pirates, men and women who had also been rejected by society, welcomed her. They were rough around the edges, but their loyalty was absolute. Silas, in his own way, took her under his wing. He taught her to navigate, to read the stars, to wield a cutlass with deadly precision. He saw her as an equal, a partner in a shared journey. Their connection was immediate and profound, a bond forged in mutual respect and understanding. Elara, who had known only rejection, felt her heart soften toward him. He had seen past the public shame and into the core of who she was. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Silas told her of his past. His family had been betrayed by a ruthless Spanish nobleman, Captain Alistair the Vulture Vargas, who had seized their lands and wealth. Vargas was also the man who had led the public shaming of Elara's father, a man who had feigned friendship to exploit his weaknesses. Silas and Elara realized their vengeance was intertwined. Their first mission together was a raid on a Spanish galleon, a ship rumored to be carrying Vargas's ill-gotten gains. The battle was a whirlwind of steel, gunpowder, and roaring voices. Elara fought with a ferocity she never knew she possessed, her movements fluid and deadly. She was a natural, a warrior in a world that had tried to make her a victim. As she stood on the deck, surrounded by the chaos of the fight, her eyes met Silas's. A silent promise passed between them. They were in this together, a force to be reckoned with. Their shared pasts were not burdens, but fuel for a new future. The victory was sweet, but fleeting. News reached them that Vargas was consolidating his power, allying with powerful figures in the British Navy to hunt down and eliminate pirates. He was also using Elara's family as pawns, threatening to ruin them completely to draw her out. The stakes had been raised. What was once a personal quest for vengeance had become a mission of survival. They sailed to the treacherous waters of the Sargasso Sea, a vast expanse of seaweed and strange currents, a place where many ships met their end. It was here they planned to lay a trap for Vargas. The crew of the Reaper's Vengeance worked tirelessly, their spirits high, their loyalty to Silas and Elara unwavering. They were not just pirates. They were a family bound by a common purpose. Elara and Silas's bond deepened during these tense days. They spent hours on deck, talking about their pasts, their hopes for the future. Elara told him about her love for her family, despite their betrayal, a sentiment that Silas, who had lost his own, found both painful and deeply moving. He began to see her not just as a partner in vengeance, but as the one person who could truly understand the depths of his soul. Their plan was intricate. They would use a decoy ship, a smaller vessel that they would scuttle to draw Vargas in. The Reaper's Vengeance would lie in wait, hidden by the dense fog that was common in the area. Elara would be the bait, a gamble they both knew was dangerous but necessary. The day of the trap, the air was heavy with tension. Elara stood on the deck of the decoy ship, the wind whipping her hair around her face. She saw Vargas's ship on the horizon, a large, intimidating galleon with the English flag flying high. As it approached, Vargas's voice, amplified by a speaking trumpet, echoed across the water. "Elara, come to me. I see you, and I will not rest until you are in chains." Silas, watching from a distance, felt a primal rage. He knew Vargas's reputation for cruelty. He wanted to rush in, but he knew they had to stick to the plan. He had to trust Elara, had to trust his crew. The chase began. The decoy ship, designed to be fast but fragile, darted through the currents. Vargas's ship, the Goliath, was faster but less agile. Elara, with her newfound navigational skills, led him into a treacherous patch of rocks. The Goliath followed, a shark sensing blood. As the Goliath closed in, Elara gave the signal. The crew of the decoy ship abandoned it, jumping into longboats and rowing toward the Reaper's Vengeance. Vargas, seeing the abandoned ship, roared with laughter, his victory seeming imminent. But then the fog rolled in, a thick, swirling blanket of white. The Reaper's Vengeance emerged from the mist, its cannons ready. The surprise was complete. The battle that followed was fierce and bloody. The crews of both ships clashed, steel on steel, a symphony of destruction. Amidst the chaos, Silas spotted Vargas on the deck of his ship. The final confrontation was at hand. Elara, seeing the look of fierce determination on Silas's face, knew she had to be there with him. She fought her way through the fighting, her cutlass a blur of motion. She reached him just as he was about to face Vargas. Vargas, seeing them together, sneered. "Look at you, a lone pirate and a shamed girl. You think you can stand against me?" "You don't know who you're dealing with, Vargas," Silas said, his voice cold and hard. "You took everything from us. Now we take everything from you." The fight was intense, a dance of steel and fury. Silas and Elara fought as one, a seamless partnership forged in their shared desire for justice. They were a formidable pair, and Vargas, for the first time in his life, felt a flicker of fear. The battle raged on, a maelstrom of steel and splintered wood. Vargas, cornered and desperate, fought with a savage intensity. His every parry and thrust was a desperate plea for survival, a last stand against the two figures who had dismantled his empire. He was a formidable opponent, his movements a blur of practiced violence, but he was no match for the combined strength and unwavering determination of Silas and Elara. They moved in tandem, a well-oiled machine, their movements fluid and precise, a dance of deadly grace. Elara landed the first crippling blow, her cutlass finding a weak spot in Vargas's defense. The blade sliced through his guard, a swift, precise movement she had honed with Silas. Vargas stumbled back, a look of stunned disbelief on his face. Silas followed up with a powerful, sweeping strike that disarmed him, sending his sword clattering to the deck. Vargas, beaten and broken, fell to his knees. The fight was over. The Goliath was theirs, a prize of both conquest and justice. Elara's eyes were fixed on Vargas. He had been a source of so much pain in her life, so much public humiliation. He was the man who had celebrated her family's betrayal, who had mocked her public shaming. But now, seeing him defeated, stripped of his power and pride, she felt no triumph, only a quiet sense of closure. The fire of vengeance that had once burned so fiercely had been replaced by a calming peace. She turned to Silas, her heart full, overflowing with gratitude and a deep, abiding love. He had given her a new life, a new purpose, and a sense of belonging she had never known. Silas looked at her, his dark eyes filled with a tenderness she had never seen before. For so long he had been the lone Corsair, the man driven by vengeance, a phantom haunting the seas. He had lived in the shadow of his past, his heart a cold, hard knot. But now, with her by his side, that knot had unraveled. He had found something more, something deeper than revenge. He had found a partner, a true equal, a woman who saw him not for the pirate he was, but for the man he had become. They sailed back to Port Royal, their victory a silent promise of a new era. The sight of the Reaper's vengeance returning with the captured Goliath caused a stir that rippled through the port. Elara's family, witnessing the triumphant return, realized their mistake. They had cast her out, and she had become a legend, a hero. The people of Port Royal, who had once whispered shamefully about her, now looked on with a newfound respect. Elara and Silas, together, confronted her father. The old merchant, humbled and shamed by his daughter's strength, begged for forgiveness. He offered to restore her place, to give her everything she had lost, the wealth, the social standing, the comfortable life. But Elara, standing on the deck of her own ship, the wind in her hair and Silas by her side, looked at him and said, "I don't need your approval anymore. I have a new family now, a better one." Her voice was calm, firm, and filled with the quiet confidence of a woman who had found her true self. The British Navy, seeing their ally Vargas defeated, offered Silas and Elara a deal. They would be granted a royal pardon, a chance to live a normal life, to settle down and raise a family. The offer was tempting, a future they had never dared to dream of, a life free from the constant threat of the gallows. But as they looked out at the open sea, they knew their journey was far from over. Their home was not on land, with its stifling rules and expectations, but on the vast, untamed ocean. Their love was not something to be confined by society's rules, but a flame that burned brightest when they were together, sailing toward the horizon. Their story was a testament to the fact that you can find family where you least expect it, and that love can blossom even in the most dangerous of circumstances. They were the lone Corsair and the shamed girl, two outcasts who found each other and in doing so found themselves. They sailed off into the sunset, their future unwritten, a new chapter waiting to be penned on the canvas of the sea. Their story became a legend, whispered in taverns from Port Royal to Tortuga. They were no longer just pirates. They were a symbol of hope, a beacon for all those who dared to defy the odds and forge their own path. If you enjoyed this story of love, adventure, and revenge on the high seas, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. We have more tales of adventure and romance waiting for you. Don't miss out on the next epic story.